Ya, sudah masuk Pak Heri, Pak.
Selamat siang Pak Heri.
Siang Pak.
Iya, selamat siang Pak. Ini Pak Wolfnya belum on Pak, ini masih ditunggu.
Oke, nggak apa-apa, kita tunggu aja Pak.
Iya Pak.
Pak siapa namanya?
Pak Wolf.
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 Sama satu lagi?
Dengan Miss Marian.
Mary?
Marian.
Marian.
Iya.
Itu sudah ada Ibu Marian.
Oh. Hello Marian.
Hello.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning from France.
Oh, okay.
Selamat
Nice
malam.
to meet you.
Yes, nice to see you again.
Okay.
Pak Wolf is in the room besides me.
Okay.
He does not see the video. He's not panel list yet. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why.
Tarik di panel tuh, Mas Subair.
Miss Marian, and this room, any Mr. Heri Jogaswara, acting head of the research organization for archaeology, language leadership.
Yeah.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you. I'm very
Nice to
honored.
meet you also. Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
Heri Yogaswara. Nice to meet you here.
Thank you.
I hope you can visit Indonesia soon because we already open for foreign researcher right now. Yeah.
Okay, but
Just
would be
2 days
wonderful.
ago.
2 days ago, wonderful news. I am very happy. I miss Indonesia.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, Pak Wolf.
But Wolf, I will, if you excuse me, I will help Pak Wolf with the computer.
Okay.
He has problems connecting, so he can say also hello.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay. Thank you. Risetnya
Mereka
banyak di mana Pak Irfan?
Balik, ya Pak.
Risetnya banyak di mana Pak ini?
Dia kalau Pak Wolf di Papua, Pak sudah lebih 20 tahun, Pak.
Oh, Papua.
Waktu saya tugas di sana itu ketemu di Papua.
Oh.
Dan sudah banyak meneliti tentang etnoarkeologi, Pak.
Oke.
Tentang pembuatan peralatan batu purba
Oh.
dan kehidupan yang terkait dengan prasejarah.
Oh.
Marian ini ahli tentang perhiasan, Pak.
Oke.
Meneliti dalam 5 tahun terakhir di Papua. Pernah juga ke daerah Afrika dan konsen di prasejarah Perancis.
Oh. Oke. Tapi belum pernah riset di Indonesia ya, Ibu Marian?
Sudah. Ya, 5 tahun terakhir, Pak. Sebelum pandemi. Ya.
Oke. Kebetulan sedang di Perancis ya, Pak Wolf juga ya? Atau
ya.
Apa nih, spellnya Wolf apa nih? Ini mereka masuknya ada di peserta ini kelihatannya Mas. Jadi harus ditarik ke panelis.
Ditarik masuk ke panelis mungkin. Ya. Baik.
Kalau Ibu Marian sudah Pak, sudah. Tinggal Pak Wolf lagi yang belum.
Oke, ditarik masuk. Mereka berminat di beberapa lokasi, Pak Heri, termasuk Walasi.
Pak Wolf,
Pak Wolf.
Selamat pagi, selamat siang semua. Maaf sekali, ada kesulitan dengan komputer saya. Marian coba perbaiki, tapi saya belum tahu. Sekarang saya use komputer dari Marian. Selamat siang dan banyak terima kasih Pak Irfan dan semua rombongan di sana untuk organisasi di webinar hari ini. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih Pak Wolf. Di sini ada kepala OR, Pak, organisasi Research Organization, Pak Mr. Heri juga suara.
Halo.
Yuko.
Hello.
Hello.
Pak Wolf.
Yes, we have communicated already by letter. I know your name.
Yes.
Heni Yoga Suara. Yes.
Yes. I stay in Papua in Balim Valley.
Oh, really?
2 years from 1993 to 1995. Yeah.
Oh, what did you do there?
We did research related with we call the cultural transformation among Dani people of the Great Balim Valley.
Yes.
Because I think at the time the National Research Institute did some technology introduction related with the paddy rice or sawah. Yeah, we would like to know what the impact of the technology introduction to the people of Balim Valley, because usually they have Ipomea batatas, the ubi, yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Keladi juga.
Keladi, ya, taro, ya.
Yeah, taro.
Yeah.
So, Mayan solved the problem. So, I will go back to my computer now. Hopefully, it will work.
Sorry.
Yeah, Miriam. We are waiting for research collaboration soon in Indonesia. When?
Oke, sekarang. Dua teman dari Jerman sudah panggil saya. Satu ada problem juga dengan hubungan, yang lain sakit, tidak bisa partisipasi sekarang. Oke.
Nicola ini?
Who?
Nicola.
Nicola said he will join, and I don't know why he is not here yet. So hopefully he will come. He was in a conference in Nizza, in France. He is working in a big research institute in Germany, and maybe he did not come back yet. I don't know, but he actually wants to come.
Oh, yeah, Nicola, hello. Nicola, hello. Hayo. Nicola.
Yes, yeah. Can you see him? Not yet.
Mungkin bisa mulai, Nurul. Bapak mau ada acaranya di jam 1:30.
Baik, assalamualaikum.
Hi, Nicola. Good to see you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan. Good afternoon from Indonesia and good morning for France. First of all, we would like to welcome to the Honorable Bapak Dr. Hari Yoga Suara as the Chairman of the Research Organization for Archaeology, Language and Literature. Selamat siang Pak Heri. Selamat bergabung.
Siang.
Welcome to the Honorable Bapak Dr. M. Irfan Mahmud SS MSI as the Head of Research Center for Prehistoric and Historical Archaeology. Selamat siang Pak Irfan.
Ya, selamat siang.
Welcome to the Honorable Mr. Wolf Sievenhovel and Mrs. Marian van Heren as our speakers for today. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. We are really happy and grateful for having you both. Thank you so much for your time. And last but not least, to all of the respectable participants that joining us today. We are delighted to welcome you to international webinar with the theme Archaeology of the Eastern and Western World, Result and the Prospect of Research Collaboration that held by Research Center for Prehistoric and Historical Archaeology as the purpose to present the result of the intensive research that has been conducted by our two speakers over the last 20 years as an effort to reveal the global cultural diversity on two different continents. Those are Indonesia and France, as well as the prospect for research collaboration in the future. My name is Dorul Adlia Purnamasari, and today I'm going to be the host and moderator for this webinar. On this special occasion, we have several agendas as follows. The first is the opening by Master of Ceremony, and the second is opening speech by Bapak Dr. Heri Yogaswara as the chairman of the Research Organization of Archaeology, Language and Literature. And then the third is prologue of discussion and also speech by Bapak Dr. M. Irfan Mahmud as the head of Research Center for Prehistorical and Historical Archaeology. And next, it will be continued with the presentation by our speakers and also the question and answer session. Last but not least is the closing. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak dan Ibu yang terhormat, first of all, we would like to invite Bapak Dr. Heri Yogaswara MA as the chairman of the Research Organization for Archaeology, Language and Literature to deliver some sentences, and also we are respectfully asked to Pak Heri to officially open this webinar. Kepada Pak Heri, kami persilahkan.
Thank you, Mbak Nurul. Very good morning for Pak Wolf, Ibu Marian, and also Pak Nicholas. And also, I think, good afternoon for participants from Indonesia. It is honor for me to be here and also know all of you, especially for Pak Wolf and Ibu Marian and also Nicholas, who I heard research so for the long period, I think, in Indonesia, especially related with Papua, because I have just like a personal memory about Papua. I did research for 2 years in Balim Valley from 1993 to 1995. And still come and go to Papua, but my research related with the more cultural and also related with the transformation in Papua. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Heri Yogaswara. Actually, I am not an archaeologist. I am anthropologist by training, but right now I am acting of new research organization. First of all, I think I would like to introduce the new research institution in Indonesia, because right now all research organization in Indonesia become one research organization, namely Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional, or in English Agency for Research and National Agency for Research and Innovation. All research center in Indonesia join in this new scheme of organization. And also, I would like to introduce the new research organization, or in Bahasa, research organization is just like Eselon 1 or directly under the head of BRIN. The name of research organization is Archaeology, Language and Literature, meaning to say all research center from archaeology, language and literature, and also related with the what is religion research, now in one research organization. And in this research organization, we have 3 research center related with archaeology, prehistory, and history now, who organized this meeting, and also archaeometry, and also research center for maritime archaeology. Yeah, meaning to say now we have 3 different focus on research. Or maybe if Pak Wolf previously know about the Arkenas, yeah, Arkeologi Nasional, and also Balar, Balai Arkeologi. With the new organization, no longer Arkenas or Balar. Now that this organization part of research organization of archaeology, bahasa, and sastra, meaning to say not based on region anymore. Yeah, no more what so-called Balar Medan, Balar Bali, and etc. But right now, we are happy to still to say just like kantor arkeologi or co-working space right now. We can because we use the terminology co-working space, no? And then but the existing of research is still there. Yeah, meaning to say all researchers still there, but divided into 3 research center. Yeah, just like Pak Irfan right now, the acting head of research center archaeology, prehistory, and history. That I think that's the new arrangement of research archaeology. But I think there is no different related to research. Yeah, research is still ongoing, and we are preparing also for new scheme of research. We call Rumah Program or House of Program, because in the House of Program, actually, we try to support what so-called multidisciplinary research. Yeah, not only from single science or single approach, but we have multiple approach. I think, of course, we would like to be reference, yeah, for research in, let's say, Southeast Asia. This way, right now, if we would like to become reference in one region, we believe there are 3 components are important. First, human researcher, human resources, meaning to say researcher itself. Secondly, about the research infrastructure. That's why we propose to our head to have a better improvement related with the laboratory for archaeological research. And also, we are trying to have some digitalization project because I think we need to preserve and conserve our material from the research of archaeology. And the third, and then I think the most important, about networking. That's why I think today's webinar or today's dialogue is very important for us, related to improve networking. And I think, and I trust Pak Wolf and Bu Marian and also Nicholas can share the research experience, and also we do hope we can make a research collaboration. And then I think that good news, because I think just 2 days ago, the government just released research visa for the researcher. Yeah, because for the pandemic, 2 years closed for the visa. I think that's with the very strong reason. Yeah, because the pandemic situation. But right now we get news. Yeah, yesterday we just got news. The visa for research permit for foreign research is now open. Yeah, and I hope Pak Irfan and colleague can use this situation, this chance to have a good research collaboration with Pak Wolf, Bu Marian, Nicholas, and other participants here to have a good research in archaeology, yeah, especially related with the Papua, yeah, because we know Papua is always have a specialty, I think, in Indonesia.
It's far away. Yeah.
Far away, and also there are some dynamics, politics, and etc. But of course, Papua is still the area. Maybe we can find a very interesting research related with archaeology. Yeah, yeah. Actually, in 1:30, I have a meeting with one researcher, Indonesian researcher who have what is research related with the genome, genetics, something like related to Papua. In 1:30, I have meeting. That's why I cannot follow this meeting until finish. I think that's all I would like to speak. I need to open officially, yeah, because actually this is just informal dialogue, yeah, discussion, etc. But yeah, formally speaking, I open this webinar, and I do hope all participants can gain and useful discussion. And again, thank you for Pak Wolf, Bu Marian, and also Nicola to attend and speak for this webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Henny, may I respond briefly? Thank you very much for giving us information about the changes in the Indonesian scientific landscape, we can say so. Of course, when changes happen, there are chances, and there are also sometimes worries. We had the worry that now there is a new big Badan Nasional Riset dan Inovasi, and where will we be? Where will our memorandum of understanding be? Will it be forgotten? Will it be somewhere, or will there be continuation? And what you have said there is very promising for us. We see that the new research body will continue, and what you have sketched out is also very important in our view, and we can understand that your president Jokowi and the other people who were behind the change want to improve the efficiency of research in Indonesia, and that is a very good thing. And we are very happy to be part of this, and partners in research, especially in archaeology and anthropology, and especially in the two provinces of Papua, as you have said. So we are very grateful that so early in the change, you and Pa Irfan and others have made this webinar possible, so that we can get together under the new umbrella and we can discuss the future cooperation, which both sides of us will try to continue. So thank you very much for this. It's very important.
Okay.
Especially as in the past, there were sometimes problems with the research visa and the izin penelitian, and etc. And we think that maybe in this new Badan Nasional, things will perhaps be even easier for the foreign researchers. As you have said, one of the aims is to internationalize research, to make you a big player in Southeast Asia. And I think that is very justified. We will talk about some of the archaeological research in the West Pacific, and so I think it is a good scheme which is going on there, and that you are there to, and by Irfan, to help us find our place in the new structure. We appreciate very much.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Pak Wolf. I just want to mention one thing, Pak Irfan. If your organization have already MOU, actually we just change the name of organization. Before Arkenas, but right now with BRIN, yeah. Just like a very small addendum. That's why I asked Dr. Marlon for write a letter to all agencies who have collaboration with Arkenas previously, and change the name with BRIN, yeah. Not really substantial changes, yeah, just only the partner organization. Yeah, of course we would like to help also related with what so-called perizinan peneliti asing right now. I know that's the one obstacle, but our chair committed to make to emphasize on the ethics, yeah, the ethic clearance, then the what so-called security approach related with the research.
That's an important aspect.
Okay, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Yeah.
Terima kasih Pak Heri. Next, we are going to invite Bapak Dr. M. Irfan Mahmud, SSMSI, as the head of Research Center for Prehistoric and Historical Archaeology, to give a prologue of discussion and also opening speech. Pada Pak Irfan, kami persilahkan.
Ya, terima kasih Rul waktunya. Good morning, Pak Irfan audience, and Pak Bul, Mariam. Hey, my friend Nicola. Honorable Mr. Heri juga Suara, acting head of the research organization for archaeology, language and tradition. The honorable head of research center Abastra, honorable Mr. Wolf, Marian and colleagues in this forum, Nicola, Gerhard Medic, Meike Presien, Thomas Mikkel, Enrico Yori, and Pak Urop Mabit, ini from Papua. Pak Made Sudarmiga, selamat sore Pak Sudarmiga, Pak Made. Nice to meet you again, all participants in this Zoom meeting. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, on behalf of the organization team of the Multiculturalism Forum, we express our gratitude because we will meet and discuss even now it's online. Hopefully, the pandemic will pass soon and we can work in a normal atmosphere again. We still remember when our first meeting with Mr. Wolf, Mariam and the team at an international conference on Papua, which was the beginning of a meeting with scientists interesting in Papua with serious attention. Thank you, Mr. Wolf and Mariam, for cooperation with archaeology so far.
Our pleasure.
Okay. There are two basically purposes for our meeting today. One, discuss about result of archaeological research that has been carried out both in Papua and in France. Two, discuss about the important research issue and look at the prospect of archaeological research collaboration in Indonesia. They all participants, ladies and gentlemen, we know that Mr. Wolf has worked in Papua with great sincerity. Papua is important because there are many interesting issues from various perspectives. including culture, banyak budaya-budaya yang lain. Papua is a bridge that connect archipelago, the Pacific and Australia. In this issue, important issue, this condition shape the diversity of tribes and pattern in Papua. Until now, the indigenous Papuan people still inherit of foundation of their ancestral culture and interesting from ethnoarchaeological aspect. Apart from Papua, there are still many interesting areas for archaeological research that need attention in the future, such as Sulawesi, Kalimantan, and the other area. Everyone know prehistory in Sulawesi is very interesting. The discovery of 7,200 before century skeleton containing a genetic mixture of Homo sapiens and dinosaurs from Siberia has since changed the view on the issue of ancient migration. Interesting, in this area also found the oldest pendant in the archipelago, aged 30,000 jewelry from bones and angel's nails in this interesting Mrs. Miriam. They are participants. Prehistoric research has long been carried out in France with many interesting finding too. This will be discussed by Mrs. Marian, entitled Prehistoric in France. We hope to get inspiration in exploration the many sites in the archipelago. Finally, we hope that our digital meeting today can produce ideas for collaboration research in the future. So we apologize for any mistake in organizing this meeting. Thanks to all participants and enjoy discuss. Terima kasih Paul dan semua. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, before we continue, let me read some rule of the webinar. We have 2 hours for all of the activities today, so every speaker have 30 minutes to deliver the presentation to audience, and we have last 1 hour for discussion and question and answer session. Every audience, you can ask a question by type your question in the chat column, and I will read to the speaker. But you can also ask directly to the speaker by type the button of raise hand, and I will let you to speak. Bapak Ibu, kita punya waktu sekitar 2 jam untuk kegiatan pada siang hari ini. Masing-masing pembicara akan memiliki waktu sekitar 30 menit untuk mempresentasikan bahan paparannya, dan 1 jam terakhir akan kita gunakan untuk sesi diskusi. Bagi peserta yang ingin bertanya, bisa silahkan menuliskan pertanyaannya pada kolom chat dan akan saya bacakan kepada pembicara. Tapi apabila Bapak Ibu ingin bertanya secara langsung, silahkan menekan tombol raise hand dan akan saya persilahkan untuk bertanya langsung kepada para pembicara kita. So next we are going to gain the most waiting session. That is presentation from our speaker. For today we have 2 speakers. The first is Mr. Wolf Schievenhofer from the Max Planck Institute, Germany. And the second, we have Mrs. Marian van Heren from the University of Bordeaux, France. So without reducing so much time, now we are going to invite Mr. Wolf Schievenhofer to deliver a presentation about archaeology and ethnology in Papua. Good morning, Mr. Wolf. How do you do?
Okay, thank you very much. So
Yes.
My talk will be the first, it seems.
Yes.
Wie muss ich das machen, Martin? Bring Lecture, da. Da habe ich drauf geklickt. Okay. Okay, as you see, as an old man who grew up with paper and pencil, I still have problems with this modern technology. I'm very grateful that Marianne is so clever in these. All right, thank you very much. So my topic is archaeology and ethnology of Tanah Papua, meaning the two provinces of Papua. You see there my affiliation. I am senior researcher in the group of human ethology in the Max Planck Institute for Biological Intelligence. This is a new name also, Pa Irfan. We have changes in our institutes. It had a different name before. This is in Starnberg near Munich, Germany. And I'm also professor at the Institute of Psychology, Innsbruck, and one of our colleagues from there just sent me a message. She is sick, so she cannot participate. You all know this, of course, so I can be very brief. The situation in the West Pacific is extremely interesting. And Pa Irfan has just mentioned this particular new finding from last year, where they found an 18-year-old girl, which they called Bese in Bugis language, and that has lived. This person has lived 7,300 years ago, and she had about 2% Denisovan genes. So Denisova is a cave in Siberia, somewhere here. I don't know whether you can see my arrow. Perhaps not. Anyway, in Siberia, there is a cave where was a line of humans, which is not Neanderthal and not modern human. And the interesting thing is that the West Pacific, Australia, Melanesia, and now also Sulawesi, and also the Philippines have a certain percentage of Denisovan genes. So as Pa Irfan already explained, this has changed the picture of migration to that area. So what you also see here is that in also in the next image, in the island of New Guinea, the two Papuas and Papua New Guinea on the eastern side, you have findings which go back to 45,000 years from now. We have a finding on Timor, which is 42,000 years. We have Maros in Sulawesi, different cave than the Leang Paninge, 42,000 years. So it is quite obvious, and we have findings in Australia, which are even perhaps 60,000 years old. So it is quite obvious that this area was inhabited quite early. And the question is, how did the people go there? How did they arrive? You see here that Australia and New Guinea, at the time of glaciation, when there was a lot of ice and the sea was much lower down, about 100 meters or a bit more, because the water was frozen, there was a land bridge between Australia and New Guinea. This is called the Sahul Shelf. And there were land bridges in Indonesia called the Sunda Shelf. And so the first people who arrived must have come from Africa. They probably stayed in the warm belt near the equator with their black skin. adapted for big sun. Their frizzy hair evolved to protect their brain from getting too hot. So they kept this, and they arrived via the islands, probably either Java and the Sunda Islands or via Sulawesi, and arrived in New Guinea, in the Kepala Burung here, also in Timor. And another branch of them went to Australia. So that was the picture which we had before. And now we know that there is another group of people, namely the Denisovans from Siberia, which have contributed genes to the population there. This part of the world has the highest admixture of Denisovan genes everywhere in the world. So in Europe, there are only very few traces of Denisova people, but here in your part of the world, the Denisovans have been particularly important to form the population which is there. And one thing you can see is here, that white spot near the border between province of Papua and Papua New Guinea. That is our main research area in Papua, the Mek area. There is only one cave, 26,000 years ago inhabited, in the two Papuas. There are plenty caves and findings in the eastern half of the island. So that is why, together with Pa Irfan and Made Geria and Made Sudarmika, we have discussed that it should be very promising to work here because there is so little yet known. Why is that area so interesting? Again, you have the situation here, and you have the island of New Guinea, and that is our main research area in the Pegunungan Bintang. Why is it so important? So important for archaeology, so important for anthropology, for genetics, for ethnology, for behavior studies, for linguistic studies, because it is like a cultural laboratory. All these groups, and later on, not only the Papuan peoples who arrived about 60,000 years ago, and by the way, they had to cross sea channels of about 40 kilometers wide. How did they do that? 60,000 years ago, they had no sailing boats. So somehow they crossed from Timor or from Sulawesi and Halmahera, etc. They crossed to the island of New Guinea. They did that. We don't know exactly how they did it, but they did it. So that means they were clever, they were daring, adventurous people. They did not shy away from the sea, and they arrived in New Guinea and in the islands around New Guinea. We call that mainland and island Melanesia. Then the Denisovan peoples probably came about 40,000 years ago, maybe before. And then about 4,000 years ago came the Austronesian peoples, who are the ancestors of most of you Indonesian people. Your genes are mostly Austronesian, your language is Austronesian, Javanese, Sundanese, Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Melayu. These are all Austronesian languages. So my own research in province of Papua started in 1974. And this is a dictionary of the language of these people who, until that time, were almost unknown. They were living like they did before, very traditional. And we have given them the culture and the language, the name Mek, because their word for river and for water is Mek. You see in the next image, this is from work with Nicolas Antunes and Marianne. We have looked at some of the languages in New Guinea. These red and yellow and green languages are the Trans-New Guinea phylum. That is a big group of languages which are related to each other. And then you have the blue languages. These are Austronesian people. And you see the Austronesians are always at the coast, close to the sea, Manus Island, New Britain. Sometimes they go a little bit inside, but usually Austronesian people have stayed where they came from Taiwan and from the South China coast, and they have a technology of building boats, of navigation, extremely clever. They are the ancestors of the Polynesians. So our work, Nicola's work, was to find out whether the Mek people, number 8 here, and the other languages, the Dani languages, the Auyu Domot, the Ok languages, whether they are there because there is a particular ecology, a particular mountain area, particular rainfall, particular sunshine, whether this environmental parameters can explain that there is one language called A and one called B and one called C, 1,000 languages in the whole area. Because many people think that the environment is predicting whether you have certain cultures and certain languages. And Nicola, by his very clever modeling, found out this is not the case. All these languages in the interior live in the same area, mountains, a lot of rainfall, steep valleys, so and so much sunshine per year, etc., etc. So environment cannot explain, or only in very few cases, like in the Austronesian cases, that you have certain groups of people living there. This is a very important point. And maybe for the future of our collaboration, that is an issue which we'll keep in mind. Another point for our joint work is the classic archaeology. The Mek people still today produce stone tools by knapping, by breaking big stones here in this quarry at the southern side of the mountains near Langda. And they are extremely skillful in producing the raw blades, which are then polished to become the stone adzes, the kapak batu of the highlands of that area. So this is, to our knowledge, the only place in the world where this ancient technology is still happening. So Marianne and I suggest that in our future cooperation, we should make a very good documentation of this, very precise, together with film, so that we understand how is their technology related to the technology of stone knapping in France or in parts of Europe or in other parts of the world. So this is like a window into the past. If we study people in Papua, it will allow us to look back into our own history. Marianne, as you know, is a world specialist on body ornaments. The interesting question is, why do people decorate themselves? Why do they do that? Everywhere in the world, people do it. So there is a strong need to make yourself more beautiful. It can also be that it signals status, it signals age groups, etc., etc. But the basic idea is you put things on your body which are precious. These shell beads, Nasarius and Kauri, do not exist in the highlands. They come from the sea. Those people did not have any idea about the sea. When we arrived in 1974, their area, which they knew from their own experience, was 3 days walk, imagine. 3 days walk, batas, tidak ada lagi. Because they were afraid if they go further, then they have no relatives, they will not get any food, maybe they will be killed. So these groups were very, very small, very confined. And the decoration they have on their body is from far away. So there was a network of exchange, which brought the shells Bit by bit, one group gets it from the sea, trades it to the next group, the next group, the next group. Probably these things came from the Ok in the east of the Mek area. Ethnoarchaeology means we are studying human behavior with regard to archaeological artifacts. When we had a big ceremony, I will show you a bit later, to open the Center Budaya, those two old guys, they came from across the mountains, far away, and decorated themselves, made themselves beautiful, like in their own parties in the past, and they sat down and snapped the stones. For us to see, that is a technology which they are still using. Imagine, these people have been backward in 1974. They did not know about the world. And now those two guys, they know there is an upacara. Okay, let's go and show the Indonesian people and the others who are there how we are making stone edges. So they understand that this technology is important. That is their classic technology. Another interesting point, when the Apo people around 1980 changed to Christianity, they opened up to the world. One of the men, one of the leaders, came to me and he said, look, we have now changed. Our own religion is changing. We have things which are very important, like these two stones, because we believe that humans came from these stones. I want you to have them because I know in your country, in your museums, in your universities, you will keep them. If we keep them here, they will get lost. Can you imagine? Stone Age people are concerned about their own culture, about their history. They don't want the history to get lost. And this is a very important point. So now to the more archaeological work, Marianne and Nicolas and myself, we were in Oksibil. Oksibil is about here. That's this Ibu Kota of Pegunungan Bintang. This is the Ok area, and we have visited all these caves, and we have decided to start digging at Emoktum, and you will see some pictures. That is in 2,500 meters, pretty high up, pretty cold. And all the other caves have also potential for archaeological research. So in our future work, we might look at that. We have also, I forgot to put a picture in it, started to look at lakes, shallow lakes, where we have layers of material which we can take out by a probe, and which can be identified. The LIPI archaeology people in Bandung are specialists for that, and we have already started to work with them. So not only looking at caves and looking at ethnoarchaeology, but also looking at the pollen in the layers of old lakes will give us an idea about the change in vegetation. When did those people start to make gardens? And that was probably about 8,000 years ago. This is some of the pictures from our excavation. This is Marianne here. The interesting thing is that the local people came with us every day. They were very interested. What are they doing there? How are they trying to find out the traces of our ancestors in the ground? As you know, these abris, these like Emoktum, is not a cave, but it's an abri, a rock shelter. These rock shelters are still used by the Apo people today when they are in the high mountains. We were able to find some pieces of charcoal which have been carbon dated at 2,140 plus minus 30 years before present. For us, this was a little bit disappointing But already we thought this layer of charcoal is not very big. So probably it's not very old. And we don't know why it is not older. We were hoping to find 20,000 years, but only 2,000. But for the local people, this was very important. They said, hey, our ancestors made fire here before Jesus was born. So for them, it's a different perspective. Here is some of the work. You can see local people participated, Nicolas, Mayan, sifting the material, etc. So that is the classic archaeological work, which we hope to continue in the future together with our colleagues from Indonesia. I have listed here a number of points, a number of hypotheses, which you find in archaeology, especially in the social sciences. And I think all these points are wrong. So people think mountains and large water bodies were borders for the expansion of humans. They were not. People think family is a new thing. Or people in the past lived in groups and there were no wives and no husband. Everybody had sex with everybody, etc., etc. This is most probably not true, because also other primates have family structures or similar to family structures. So you in Indonesia would probably not think that family is a new phenomenon, because you are very family-oriented people. So we must look at the family as a nucleus of the society. Agriculture, rice in China, wheat in the Fertile Crescent, maize and tobacco and potato and tomato and all these plants in Amerindia. We think that is where agriculture started. Agriculture also started in New Guinea, I'll show you. Natural science starts with writing, universities and libraries. How do we know about nature? Can these people know something? I'll show you. Insects are not human food. Wrong. Insects are primate food. Health in traditional society was bad. They had no modern medicine. Wrong. Many of these people are much healthier than Europeans, who are fat and obese, don't move, have heart attacks, and so on. Incest avoidance is cultural. Wrong. Incest avoidance is a biopsychological mechanism which makes us choose our partners with whom we have children from a different group. Mother love is cultural. This is particularly in France. Many French sociologists and anthropologists will say, oh, the love of children is just a cultural thing. There is no love of mother. It is just a Christianity and so on and so on. Wrong, completely wrong. Mother love is universal. Romantic love exists only since the Renaissance. Completely wrong. People fall in love. People have butterflies in their stomach. People make poems and songs about their love. So humans are peaceful, or humans are brutally aggressive. Humans are both. Human behavior is culturally shaped. Wrong. They are universals. Without schools, children cannot learn. Okay, in the modern world, we need the schools, but it's surprising what these children can learn. Simple societies have simple languages. Completely wrong. That language is very, very difficult. Cultures cannot be understood by outsiders because linguistic encoding, Sapir-Whorf, completely wrong. We come as outsiders. I came in 1974. I did not know any of the language. I had no dictionary. I had no interpreter. And in half a year, I could know 2,000 words of the language because our brains are the same. There were some of those guys there who made sure that I would learn what they would explain to me. Wonderful. Wonderful how our brains can join to understand each other. It is not like cultures are different, separated by big walls, and we cannot understand another culture. Ethnicity is not a new phenomenon, and traditional people cannot jump into the modern world. I'll come to that. So here is the area, high mountains. They are not a border. People have always crossed these mountains, 4,000 meters high. So early expansion is not necessarily limited to corridors. People in research projects often look for corridors where humans went out of Africa, where humans went to Asia, etc. Humans can also go where there is no corridor. That was the village of Mongona in 1974, very small, 2 men's houses. That was my house here. I lived there for 2 years. So that was Stone Age New Guinea. That is a map of the village at that time, the 2 men's houses. And you can see a map like this already explains us about the society. That was the male area here. And here is the female area. And the areas were separated. The men were forbidden to go to the female area, menstruation house, the house for giving birth. And that were the men's houses. The women were only allowed to dance here when there was a feast. And these are the family houses. So there was marked dichotomy of the genders, different work for men and women, but quite a big unity in the families and in the marriages. There were divorces and there were problems like in our society also. But often these couples stayed together for a long time, they had children together and they worked together. In the houses, very small houses, 3 meters, 4 meters, round houses, diameter, fireplace in the middle. People sit there in the afternoon, they eat together, they talk, they laugh, they feel good. So very small for our European standards. We think you cannot have 8 people in a small place. To sleep, you have just the space for your body, that's all. So what do we try to do in the kind of science? We call that human ethology, evolutionary anthropology. We want to understand who are we? Who are we? Why are we the way we are? How are our perceptions, our emotions, our mind, our behavior? And the Apo, because they were so traditional and so non-connected to the outside world, they were living according to their own traditions. They did not see other people. They were a model for us to understand what it is to be human. That was the first airstrip, which was built under my directorship together with this man from Dani, Tayiniak. And then came the earthquake in 1976 and the airstrip was destroyed. And that is how it looks now, imagine. You saw the houses before, just about 20 houses. Now you have a big village. The population is about 4 or 5 times bigger than 50 years ago. And that is because there is no war anymore, and because there is now a health system, that is the Puskesmas here. There is a school. That is the second airstrip. And now they have a third airstrip for bigger planes. And they built that just by themselves without any machinery. Can you imagine how energetic these people are? They want to belong to the world. They want to have access by big airplane. They want to be able to transport people and goods. So they are modern people now. Suddenly in 45 years, can you imagine? In Europe, people think that is impossible, but it is possible. And this here is a very special part of the village. This is the Center Budaya, and that is the Rumah Tamu here, which was built by German money and by money from Oksibil, from the Pemerintah Pegunungan Bintang. This is the only such institution in the 2 Papuas. We have some museums in Jayapura, in Manokwari, but we do not have a Center Budaya in any of the villages. So I told you already, Center for Agriculture, Taro, Kaladi, is domesticated first in the highlands of the island of New Guinea, Colocasia esculenta. So New Guinea belongs to the early centers of agriculture. Imagine, not only that, but also other plants. Like here are some of the plants at a big feast. This is sayur lilin. I don't know, Pak Hari, Yogaswara will have eaten that in Dani land. This is a very delicious vegetable. So a lot of food for a big feast. The dogs are interesting. That is another possible study for us together. The dogs were probably brought by the Austronesians, perhaps also the pig, we don't know. And here are many plants which are domesticated in New Guinea, in the two Papuas and on the other side. So that is often forgotten. We think these people are wild, kasar, they are naked, they have the koteka, they don't know about culture and behavior. That is all not true. And their ancestors have been very good gardeners. These are some trees which are important, especially pandanus. You see here, buah merah, Pandanus conoideus, is domesticated and is planted, and they understand about these things. Imagine one of my friends there said to me a few years ago, hey, listen, this tree did not grow in our village some 10, 15 years ago. Now I see it's growing. I think it's getting warmer. Can you imagine? Stone Age man understands global warming by an indicator plant. Fantastic. These people are scientists. This is another nut, Pandanus prosimus. So these people are horticulturists. They have this form of agriculture, but they're also gatherers, food from the forest, from the land around them, and hunters. When we were there, in our big team of more than 30 scientists, from 74 to 76, the professors for botany were collecting plants. And usually the boys and girls were with them, watching what they did. They found this crazy, that there are people who collect leaves and flowers and put them in newspaper. They said, why are you doing that? Because we want to know what is growing in your country. Oh, that's good. Do you know that this plant and this plant are brothers? The botany professor said, no, we don't know, and we don't think so. Look, they are very different. When the professors came back to Germany, they compared all the plants with the different specimens from the herbaria in Bogor, in London, etc. And it was found that two are related. They are not only the same family, Saxifragaceae, but they are polyosma. Imagine Stone Age people in the middle of New Guinea, never seen a book of plants, never been to school or university. They know that these plants are related to each other in our Linnaean system. So that is an important, very important point. We must understand that these cultures have natural science, and it's important to look at that. Insects, they eat all kinds of larvae, etc., to get important protein. They also eat those animals. These are marsupials. We call them couscous. They are living in the trees, in the high mountains. These are women bringing drinking water. And you see their bodies are very healthy. At that time, I will show you a picture of their BMIs. Nobody had overweight. Everybody was an athlete. These women were walking for hours with 40 kilograms of load in their string bags, in their noken. Enormously powerful people. We think people in traditional societies are sick because they have no antibiotics, etc. Partly that is true, but the majority of people were very healthy, healthier than we in Europe. That's the point. Now, things are changing very fast, and many Apo people are very fat because they eat like you do in Indonesia. When they are at the coast, they gain weight, they have high blood pressure, they have heart attack and diabetes. So people are paying for becoming modern. That is a very important point. Their life was adjusted to the environment. And now all this is changing, and they must learn not to eat everything which is in the shop. They must learn to brush their teeth, to have healthy teeth. In the past, their teeth were wonderful. See, they are very muscular, even though their protein in the food is very limited. We think, medical people think, with that little protein, you cannot survive. Look how these guys look. And he's not going to the fitness studio. That muscle is coming from his daily work. This is the BMI. Men and women had beautiful BMIs, see, around 20. In Europe, we would be extremely happy if everybody had this kind of BMI. We don't. We are paying for our modern world. Birth, we have been able to document birth, very important, because in Europe and in Indonesia, we think birth is a kind of sickness. You have to go to the hospital. Often people, the doctors make a cesarean section, so the child is born by the knife. We must look at these ways to give birth, to understand what birth is. We are looking at birth from a wrong perspective. We must look at birth from an evolutionary perspective. And those people can show us how birth can be managed in a physiological way. Of course, if there's something wrong, get them to the hospital, have a cesarean section, but not 35% or 40% cesarean section in Europe. In Brazil, 80% of children are born by the knife. Indonesia, thank God, is better, but this cannot go on like that. We have a model here to structure how birth happens. And this is how our ancestor women were giving birth, you know, the same way. The mother is cutting the umbilical cord. So this is part of my work, and that has been influential in Europe because some doctors understand my points, but not all of them. Mother love. Mothers have a very close emotional bond to their children. You see it. And the babies are very healthy. They are breastfed. At that time, they were breastfed for 2.5 years, at least. Now, mothers do not give the breast for much longer than about a year, because the EPO have a rule, a cultural rule. They say when the mother gives the breast, susu, to the baby, and she has sex with her husband, then the sperm will get into the milk and will spoil the baby. This is a very crazy idea, but it has prevented them of having sex for a long time after birth. That is a problem, of course, especially for the men. And now they are shortening this. So another change which leads to a woman now having 10 or 11 children, and all of them survive. And that is why we have this overpopulation. That is another serious issue for the future. Oh, what's happening? Okay. So there is the idea that romantic love is something new. This woman made a love song which is so wonderful. You could sing it in any show on TV in Jakarta or in Berlin. Beautiful song expressing her love, her erotic feelings, the sexuality between herself and the man. This is later in 2010, and you see her teeth are not the very best. That is because they don't understand that this modern food, sugar, etc., is killing the teeth. But it's very important that all these things are typically human. To want to be beautiful, to dance, to decorate yourself, to be visible, to be admired, to be loved, to fall in love. All these things are typical for our species, whether it's in remote Pedalaman, Papua, or on the streets of Jayapura and Jakarta. It's the same. War. There was war, 11 months, and I have no time to explain these things. Here is a man who had an arrow in his back, 12 centimeters, and I pulled the arrow out, and he ran to get the guy who shot him. Can you imagine? Yeah. They are so tough, these guys. It's amazing. Many of them have these kind of wounds. And here, these these men are running to a battle where the enemy from the neighboring valley was attacking. So humans are aggressive, especially men, but they also love peace. And now, after the change of culture, there is no war anymore. And they are very happy about that because they can go now everywhere in Papua without being in danger. This is building the sacred men's house. This was their kind of temple, their kind of traditional church. And here is the most important religious object, which is brought by the ritual leader to the newly constructed men's house. Very important. And that got lost in the earthquake in 1976. And that was probably one reason why they changed their culture from the old religion to the new one. Many people think that emotions are cultural. That is completely wrong. Emotions are happening on the biopsychology of the deep parts of our brain, the hypothalamus and the limbic system. This man comes from the war and he learns that his brother has died. And now he sits there and he cries. It was so moving to see that. And now this body is brought into the tree. It will be bound there and will rest there for half a year. Then it's a mummy, and this mummy will be put into a garden house. So 3 stages of funeral ritual. First, in the tree, then in a garden house, and then in a cave where you have the skulls. This was the skull in 1974, the row of skulls. And this is a few years ago with Mayan. You see, they are now rotting because this cave is overgrown. We have tried to talk to the man who owns the cave and say, hey, let's take these skulls to Jayapura or to Jakarta to study them. And he said no. And we said, look, they are now rotting, and in a few years, they will be in a very bad condition. But so far, that was not possible. So sometimes there are these kind of problems. So that's the 3rd stage of funeral. Children are always around when we are working. They want to understand what we do. They had no schools in the past, and they would know all the plants, all the animals. They would know about the world. Now they have to learn about the modern world, and that is in the school. This is one of my best friends who unfortunately died already. And we asked him, where do the different trade items come from? Where do the cassowary feathers come from? The bird of paradise feathers come from? Where do the cowrie shells come from? Where do the nutter shells come from? And what does he do? He sits down and he draws a map, a bird's eye view, to explain to us the string bags come from the southwest, etc., etc. Yeah. Imagine, we think that people who have never seen a map don't know what a map is. That's completely wrong. People have a brain which can imagine I'm a bird and I'm looking onto the land below me, and I will draw a map and explain the white guys how the exchange system is working. This is a text written by him about the history of his people. In this case, how we arrived there in 1974. Imagine, he had school only a few years, very bad school at that time. He sits down and he writes very orderly and neatly in his own language, phonetically transcribed the history of his tribe. That is Stone Age man. Stone Age man is not stupid. This is the work of the 2 Petrikins, French archaeologists who have worked in Papua, and they show that different tribes have different body decoration. Some of body decoration is the same. So particular feathers, particular shells. This is the lacrima, seed from a plant, all have that. But other groups have only specific body ornament. And that is the important discovery of Mayan. She shows that in Europe, in the Aurignaciens, 40,000 years ago, the same is true. Tribes, ethnic groups have particular forms of body decoration. That is the classic sign of ethnicity. This is the same like in Sulawesi, in Java, in Sumatra. You go to the Toba, you go to the other areas, people have different kinds of dress, especially when they have a feast. So the principle of ethnicity is very important. And it's very good, and we are very grateful that research like Pa Irfan and Geria, etc., they understand that cultural diversity, also our webinar today has that multiculturality. Cultural diversity is a very important thing. We must not push those people to dress like a boogies, a dancer. Let them have their culture. They will be citizens of Indonesia, but they have their roots in their own culture. These roots are important for us to discover. And part of that is the Center Budaya, which I was designing, and it was built by the government. We are very happy about this. The inside has many pictures and all the books, etc., which we have published. So they have access to their own history. And when it was opened, they started to dance again, like in the past. The missionaries, the white missionaries, were forbidding the dance because they did not want the men to wear the koteka, and they did not want the women to dance. The dance is a little bit erotic, not much, not like in a discotheque at all, but a tiny little bit, as you saw in the picture. So the missionaries did not want that. Now, people are going back to their culture. They are proud. They still know the songs. They know the choreography. And we are happy that this is taking place. At the same time, they are in the university in Jayapura, in Abhepura, about 60 students at the present time from that area. So old and new, that is the secret. They must become able citizens of their land, and they must sit in the parliament and raise their voice and talk to the other people. That is the future. And at the same time, have the roots in their own culture. From the stone heads, this is one of the stone heads here, you see, in 1974, to the modern world. This is a young man who operates the radio, very complicated to understand all this blah, blah talk there. And this is a young woman who operates a tablet. So people are able to change their culture very fast. Why? Because the human brain is an extremely flexible organ. Terima kasih atas perhatian Anda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wolf. It's a really interesting presentation. We learned so many things about the cultural diversity in Papua, both in material and non-material culture, that is make Papua become a very potential area for future research in so many issues. Yes, and
very much so, Ibu.
Yeah, and I really also inspired by your presentation about the important values of Papua's life, especially in mother love. It's make me miss my mother so much right now. Thank you very much once again. Now we are.
We cannot hear you.
Yes, now we are going to invite Mrs. Marian van Haren for delivering a presentation about prehistoric research in France. Mrs. Marian, please take your time.
Thank you very much, Ibu Nurul. Thank you very much, Pak Irfan and Pak Yogaswara. Sorry, I need to find my first slide here. Okay, sorry. here. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to communicate with you a bit more about our collaborative research. And as you have heard from Pak Wolf, we are interested in collaborating archaeology in Indonesia, but it's always a bilateral idea. So we not only hope to be able to come to Indonesia and work with you, but also hope that you can come to France and work with us. So that's why I thought in this presentation, I will not give you a very big overview of what is all happening in France in prehistoric research, but just a few examples so that you can have an idea about how prehistoric research is working and functioning and how it has come about in France. Where we hope we will be able to see you in the next future when the pandemic is over and we have again opportunities for collaborative research in person on the archaeological material and on interesting topics. So I am a researcher employed by the National Research Center of France. It's called the CNRS. So people think France is Paris and is the Eiffel Tower, which is very much very important. France is big. More than half of the prehistorians are based in Paris, and we have many historical institutions like the Musée de l'Homme. We have the Institut de Paléontologie Humaine. We have the Collège de France, we have the Musée d'Histoire Naturelle. So these are institutions which have existed for a long time and have important researchers. All of you know, of course, François Semar, who is active in Indonesia, excavating in Java. But France also has other bigger cities, and one of them is Bordeaux, and that is where we are based. So here you have a view of Bordeaux, which is, I think, a nice city, not as big as Paris, but not small, and it's good quality of life there still. And in Bordeaux, we have this University of Bordeaux, which is a very large campus, a bit outside the big city. And in France, historic research and most of the other scientific domains are organized in what we call UMR. So UMR, it means a mixed unit of research. So we are based in one building, but we have people which are employed by different institutions. For example, I'm employed by the CNRS, but in my lab, we also have people employed by the University of Bordeaux and other people who are employed by the Ministry of Culture. So we have different objectives of research. We have different research topics, and the people paid by the university are mainly working with students. CNRS researchers, they are more on basic research. If they want, they do not need to have contact with students. It's, of course, much better and also advantage for us to discuss and have opportunities of collaborative research with students. So that is how France is basically organized. So we are in different mixed units of research in the different cities of France. So Bordeaux is located more towards the south of Paris. It's close to the Atlantic Ocean. And Bordeaux is famous because it's not far from the Dordogne region, which is the region in France which yielded most of the prehistoric sites. It's especially one valley, it's called the Vézère River Valley, of which you can see a picture here, which has yielded a lot of very famous archaeological sites. So just to give you an idea, this is Bordeaux is about here, and here is the Vézère Valley River, in which you can find all of these famous sites like the Abri de Cro-Magnon, the Grotte de Lascaux, and many, many more. And of course, in the rest of France, you also have important archaeological sites, which have been excavated for a long time. We have in the Vézère Valley the famous village of Les Aisies de Taillac, where we have the National Prehistory Museum, which you can see on top here, and which hosts the collections which have been collected for the last 200 years. So it is also the Vézère Valley has lived this famous cave, decorated cave from the Paleolithic of Lascaux, which is a polychrome cave with many depictions of animals. And today we have the 4th reconstruction of this cave. So it's completely made out of panels which have been put together to represent the real cave. So you can visit the cave in real, but it's not the real cave, because the real cave has to be protected from deterioration. If too many people come in the cave, there will be algae, bacteria, and so forth growing on the rock wall. So it's not allowed to visit the cave itself anymore. So that's why France has used very modern technology to reconstruct the cave for tourists, to show the world and to make it visitable. So as you can see here, the history in France over centuries. So the first excavations in search of prehistoric men, it's already in the 1820s, 1830s it started. So at the beginning, prehistory was not yet a discipline, but people were finding bones in stratigraphic layers, in geological layers, and they thought, yeah, there must have been a time where animals were living here. And the idea of a prehistoric man came about in that time. And from that time on, first antiquarians and later real prehistorians have been searching for prehistoric men, especially in this Vézère and Dordogne region, where there are a lot of rock shelters and a lot of interesting prehistoric sites. So the Cro-Magnon, the sapiens in around 1840, I think, 1868, sorry. So already also more than about 1.5 centuries ago. Also the discovery of the Neanderthal skeletons, for example, in La Ferracie, which is also in the Vézère Valley. It was in 1910, about 1911, I think. And Lascaux was in 1940. And the latest cave, because the discoveries, luckily for us, they still continue. We have not found everything yet. The latest discovery of a painted Paleolithic cave was in the year 2000, which is the Cussac cave, with engravings dated to about 24,000, about that time. So we have a long history of research with the many sites which are yet today in UNESCO World Heritage. So they are protected and they are they must be open for visit to the public. We have been able to look specific methods for the study of prehistory, which have undergone great changes. At the beginning, excavations were made with very rough tools. They just dig into the ground. They thought there's one prehistoric, and you just have to unearth the archaeological remains. Today, we excavate very meticulously with sieving with coordination in 3D of every object, which is 2 centimeters or bigger, and sieving every centimeter layer of earth from this archaeological sites will be excavated. So we are progressing very slowly and very meticulously with modern archaeological investigation methods. So we have gone a long way from, example, the time of Jacques Boucher de Perthes, which is one of the founders of prehistory. So he was the first, among the first, to really show that prehistoric man existed. So with stratigraphic excavations, he found stone tools and bone tools and faunal remains very deep in layers, very deep underground. So that's when the idea of prehistoric man came about. Another very important discovery was in 1864. This was in the site which is called La Madeleine, also on the Vézère River, which flows on the bottom of the cave. Not one can almost, when one goes kayaking, one can get out of the kayak into the cave. It's a very nice place. And at that time, they found an ivory slab with a mammoth engraved on it. And this was really one of the first proofs that prehistoric men must have existed at the time of extinct faunal species which lived in that area a long time ago. So mammoths went extinct, and I mean, animals until now they don't engrave on slabs. They must have seen the mammoth and engraved the mammoth, and this was a very important proof for accepting the existence of prehistoric men. So that was a discovery in which Édouard Lartet, it's another iconic figure in France, everybody knows. He was a famous antiquarian and wrote the first big book with a lot of images and descriptions of the finds in the, also and especially in the Vézère Valley. Also, his son was an archaeologist, a prehistorian, and he found the famous Cro-Magnon skeletons in the Cro-Magnon rock shelter with shell beads associated to them. So this is just a picture from, it was a long time ago. So they just make drawings, but already in stratigraphic order to explain what they had found. Marcelin Boule is also an important figure in France prehistoric research. He was the first to describe Neanderthal skeletons from France. So also to show the anatomically descriptions, what the bases were led, also 1910 about that time. And Gabriel de Mortier, another famous prehistorian, he was the phrenology based on the study of lithic tools. So he looked at the different archaeological prehistory and saw the change in how the stone tools looked and were made. And he proposed a chronology based on the typology of lithic tools. And François Borde, he is one of the most important archaeologists who worked at the University of Bordeaux also, made an even more detailed chronology of the stone tools, which is still in use today and very useful for attributing archaeological sites in which we only have stone tools to a chronological period, as chronocultural units. And then, of course, we have the many rock art and cave painting sites in the Dordogne and in the Vézère River Valley. And the most important is Lascauxe, which is polychrome, and which have been studied since 1940 when it was discovered, and especially by Henri Breuil. He was a priest and he dedicated all his life to the recording and the drawing of rock art and cave art from France, but also from other parts of the world. So with these prehistorians, which we have in every prehistoric textbook, that's an image of France. Archaeologist, prehistorian, which I need to mention, which is André Leroy-Gourand, who was a specialist of cave art studies, and he proposed different theories about why these animals were painted in the caves. So today we have many more archaeologists working on rock art like Jean-Claude with different theories, but these are just to show you a few examples of famous historians and the basic of what we are studying since 200 years. So we have the animal bones, the faunal remains, with specific methodologies and specific research tools. We have the human remains. Also, it's a sub-discipline of paleoanthropology. We have the people studying the lithic tools, which it's a very detailed study also, and one have a good eye to study and have the jargon which goes with it. We have the bone tool specialists, which are studying spear points and bone tools of different types and in different raw materials, animal bone or ivory, antler from reindeer or deer. And then we have the art, which either work on rock art, cave art, or on mobiliary art, so smaller objects which are found in the archaeological sites. We also have some musical instruments, and then you have now also the bead specialists. I'm one of those, studying personal ornaments found in burials, but also isolated in different layers of archaeological settlement sites. And we always have to resituate the archaeological collections we are studying in the paleo environment. So we have in our also people working in environments who reconstruct the conditions, the climatic conditions, and the ecology of the prehistoric men at the different times of prehistory. So we have a website. It's not very good, this website. I think it must be updated and is in the course of being made better. But you can find which research teams we have. Unfortunately, I think it's only in French. I think the English page has been put down, but will be put up again very soon, I hope. So we have different research teams and explanations on which kind of topics and which type of methods they use to study these archaeological remains. Okay, so we hope we have already had the opportunity to have Pak Irfan and Pak Europe Mabin and Pak Made Sudamerica in France. So we hope that our collaboration can continue and that we will have many more visitors who come to France and work with us or with our colleagues and on prehistoric or archaeological research topics. And we would like to thank again Pak Made Gerie for the coming to Bordeaux and making the first memorandum of understanding we had possible, and to put the priorities and the research themes and the possibility to have bilateral exchange together. And thank you very much for your attention, also for this little overview of what prehistoric research is in France. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Marianne. France is always be the first country that I really want to visit someday. And your presentation make me want to be there very soon.
You're always welcome.
Thank you. From your presentation, we can see that France is very rich of prehistorical archaeological remains that can be a very good chance to do a research collaboration between Indonesia and France in the future. Thank you so much. It's a really interesting presentation for us. Now we are, yes, thank you. And now we are going to the question and answer session. I see there are two participants that raise hand. Wait, let me see. There are 3 persons raise hand. First, let me invite Miss Dr. Agustinus Darto Harnoko to ask question to the speaker. Pak Agustinus.
Terus dia udah sampai nih darinya putus.
Is there Pak Agustinus? No, let me invite Ibu Tati to asking a question. Ibu Tati, are you there? Or everyone in the participant, please just mention your question in the chat column and I will read to the speaker. I see also Ibu Retno Purwanti wanna ask a question. Ibu Retno, oh no. Siapa? Ibu Retno. Bapak dan Ibu yang ingin bertanya boleh silakan menuliskan pertanyaannya di kolom chat, boleh berbahasa Indonesia, nanti akan saya coba terjemahkan kepada para pembicara. Atau jika ada yang ingin bertanya langsung, silakan untuk raise hand. I think boleh bertanya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Ibu Retno.
Ya, terima kasih. Maaf tadi agak ini sinyalnya agak naik turun gitu ininya. Maaf. Ini saya mau bertanya, maaf ini saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja ininya. Saya ingin bertanya pada Pak Wolf ini apa ketertarikan khusus Pak Wolf untuk melakukan penelitian di Papua itu apakah karena ada kesamaan gitu dengan prehistori yang ada di Perancis atau ada alasan lain yang lebih spesifik gitu, karena kan kalau di Perancis barangkali sudah tidak ada masyarakat adat lagi seperti yang ada di Papua gitu ya. Kalau Papua sampai sekarang masih ada dengan segala dinamikanya tadi, meskipun katakanlah masyarakatnya masih menggunakan tradisi lama, tapi toh juga gadget juga sudah digunakan gitu. Terus saya sekira itu saja yang membuat saya penasaran, Mr. Wolf ini. Thank you.
Terima kasih Bu Retno. Mr. Wolf, do you get the question?
Ya, Ibu Retno, saya ada kesulitan sedikit dengar. Saya minta Ibu bisa menyermahkan yang poin dari Ibu Retno.
Mr. Wood, I would like to translate to English. Ibu Retno asking about what make you interest to do any research in Papua. Is it because the same with friends or no? That is, thank you.
Ibu Retno, I will give you a little bit a biographic overview. When I was a student of medicine, I was 23 years old. somebody from the University of Munich, a zoologist, was planning an expedition to Papua New Guinea, to the eastern side of the island. And he asked me whether I would like to join, because he wanted to have a medical person in the team, because he almost died when he was there the first time of malaria. So he thought maybe it's good to have a doctor. But the problem was I was not a doctor. I was just in the middle of my studies. And suddenly I am there in New Guinea, and he was bitten by a snake. And there were people around us who were sick. And I didn't really have enough knowledge. But somehow my father was a doctor, and I was growing up in this medical field. So that was my first time, 9 months. And my research topic, Ibu Retno, was traditional medicine. So I was interested in finding out, what do people do when they are sick? They have plant medicine, jamu, etc. And you see, Ibu, why New Guinea? Why Papua? Because it is one of the areas in the world where our civilization has not yet, at that time, come to all the areas. So it was, as I showed you, like a window into the past. We can, of course, do anthropological work in Munich. I could study the poor people who live under the bridge and can find out about their lives. That is possible. But I wanted to understand, who are we humans? And if I go to an area where contact to the outside world has been very limited, then I have people in front of me who are like our ancestors. And that was my interest in going there. And when I met Marianne van Haren, she was telling me about her work in Europe about body decoration, and about her finding that in Europe, 40,000 years ago, you have different areas where you have different body decoration. And she said, my colleagues do not believe that. When I say these are ethnic groups, ethno-linguistic groups, my colleagues will say, no, Ibu Marianne, this is all one culture. We call it Austronesian culture. And Marianne says, but I have these different body decorations. And so there was that discussion between her and her colleagues. And I said to her, look, let's go to New Guinea. We don't have the Austronesian there, but we have people who are living more or less traditionally, and they all have different body decorations. So again, Papua is like a model to understand ourselves. See, archaeology, anthropology, these research disciplines, they have one aim, that is to understand about us. Who are we? What makes us human? And Papua, as I say, and in 1972, when we planned the project, big project, more than 30 scientists, of which I was the field director. It was a project from Berlin, from the Museum of Ethnology. We went to Papua because Papua had some areas which were not contacted before. So it is always the search for people who have not yet had contact to the outside world and who represent models for us to understand the human condition. So that is why Papua. And you can imagine, 1974 is a long time ago. I have become attached to that part of the world. I have friends there, and now I'm not only a researcher anymore, I'm a kind of father for them, trying to help them to go to the modern world. It's a difficult road. Yeah, imagine. How will they manage with the world? And I was the first who was teaching them Bahasa Indonesia. And I said to them, look, you must go to school. You must become part of the Indonesian people. And so now we have, with Marianne and Nicolas and others, we have the research, but at the same time, I'm trying to accompany them. So my role has somehow gotten out of pure research to be somebody who is a friend who accompanies them. They call me father. I look a little bit like a Catholic priest, so maybe that is also a reason. So, Ibu Retno, that is why New Guinea, Papua. Let me add, Ibu, may I add, while I have the floor, may I add something? This is an important point. Pak Irfan, in Indonesia, archaeology is not a classic discipline of the universities. That is an interesting point. I think it is because the state wants to make sure that what you find in the ground, maybe some very precious items from Hindu or from Bronze Age in China, will be belonging to the state. I don't know whether that's the reason, but anyway, we have a different system in Europe where archaeology became part of the university system, and in Indonesia, it is part of a state system. In our collaboration, this has not mattered. We know that colleagues like Pak Irfan and the others are academically trained people, but I don't know, Pak Irfan, whether that difference will be important or cause problems. For instance, like Ibu Marian suggested that some of the Indonesian colleagues, one day will find enough funds to finance that, will come to Bordeaux. I don't think there is a problem between the two different levels, no? Pak Irfan.
Yeah. I understand. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wolf. Ibu Retno, bagaimana Pak? Bisa dipahami?
Luar biasa ini alasannya.
Terima kasih banyak. Okay, there is another question in the chat column and I will read. The question is from Alfi Syahrin, Bapak Alfi Syahrin. The question is, what is the principal difference between research in Europe countries compared with developing countries about Asian subject? Thank you so much. The first, Mrs. Marian, could you please answer the question?
Thank you very much for that question. I think I'm not really able to answer definitely to that, but I can give you my personal impression or idea. I think we in France, since we have this very long history of prehistoric research, we have been subdivided more and more in specialists, and we almost have as very few real generalists which have a vision about the prehistoric research question. So I think we have many researchers with many small specialist areas which are on top level with the best and most modern techniques and analytical tools. So we have many of that in France. And for Indonesia, I think you have more all in general and comprehensive approach. But perhaps Pak Wolf, you have a longer connection. You may answer a bit different perspective as mine as a small archaeologist working on prehistoric beads.
I think that basically the questions we are looking at are very similar. So I think the difference between countries like Indonesia and France or other countries in Germany is actually not very big. What is different is, as Marianne has explained, the specialization, often the availability of expensive machinery, of analytical tools. That is different. Then the difference is also, if we look at publications, that English is a foreign language for our Indonesian colleagues, and it is not easy for them to write articles in very good English so that they can be accepted in high-class journals. We, Marianne and I and Nicola, think that it can be our job, part of our job, to help you in this, to put your very important findings. If I think about the Balai Archaeology Papua, they have very interesting things there. Pa Irfan was the boss some time ago, very important findings, which are the result of the work of the team there. But that work is not yet really published in a way that the international community will be informed about that. And one of our ideas is to sit together with these colleagues and work with them and show them our ways of making these things available for the scientific community. Also, what is happening already is that people in Papua are informed about the findings. Pahari Suroto is very active in that. So that is where we can join. And as I mentioned, my dream is that we can get a team together, a good documentation team from TV, maybe from the Indonesian state television, to make a documentation of the stone technology, of the napping technology at the southern side of the mountains. So I think there are some differences, but in many ways we can utilize the different powers which are on both sides. The very developed technology of analytics in France and the experience with the findings, archaeological findings and others, which our colleagues have there. So that, I think, is one of the bases of our collaboration.
Thank you so much for the answer. Next, I see there Ibu Rini Marion raise hand. Let me invite Ibu Rini to speak. Ibu Rini, are you there?
Rini Marione.
Oh, silakan. Ibu Rini. Okay, I think next we will move to the chat column. There is a question to Mr. Wolf. The question is like this: your explanation makes me wonder what should we be done as a researcher relating to the locality and modernity issues. If I do not misjudge you appraise Papua's way of life in the term of health compared with modern life? Thank you. Could you please answer the question?
Yeah, this is an important issue. There are some researchers who will say, I will do my research and I will not interact with the people much, and I will not influence them and so on. Yeah. I think if you do long-term research in a particular group of people, it is inevitable that you become a part of them. Not 100%, but you live there, you experience their lives, they come to you with their problems. And in my case, this, as I said, has become an important part. I have always been a medical doctor. So I was, besides my research, I was treating sick people because I thought we have this modern medicine, which is very helpful in many ways, if there are infections, bacterial infections, for instance. And so I have stepped out from the research person to become a medical doctor. And also I have stepped out from research to become an advisor. And as you know, Pahari Yogaswara was mentioning that Papua has problems, political problems. All these things will be discussed with you if you live there for a long time. And I think our experience can help them. See, when this discussion comes about Merdeka, complete Merdeka for Papua, I tell them, please have a look how the situation is at the other side of the border. If you look there, you see how bad many things are. Would you like to have that? Or would you like to have the better situation in the Indonesian part of Papua? So these are difficult problems, yeah. And I think one job of us researchers who have been there for a long time is to become part of the development. And that is why I see the work of Pahari Yogaswara, for instance, in the Dani area. They want to help them to change their food production, to have paddies and to grow rice and so on. All these things are new elements of their lives, and it is part of our job, I think, to accompany them there. So we are fascinated by the traditional life because it's so different from our own world. At the same time, it allows us to understand what is really human. At the same time, there is modern life now, and they have to come to some solution how to organize their lives. And I can say for these particular people, the EPO, they are very realistic. And they see that under the Indonesian umbrella, with their autonomy, which they have, they are doing very well. On the other hand, there are always some, especially younger people, who are shouting and so on. So that is the actual problem. And sometimes I think that the government in Jakarta does not really like us European people to be in Papua because they are afraid that we become part of this movement, or maybe also that we will be in danger. I don't think we are in danger because people know us, and but this is a complex problem. Yeah, I think it's much easier to join Pa Irfan in Makassar and do work in the Maros caves. And at one stage, I think, especially maybe Ibu Marian would like to do that, would like to stay with you for some time and study the body ornaments there. So that is a little bit the issue about Papua. In my view, most Papuan people understand that this autonomy is giving them a pretty good control over politics. Not complete, of course not, but it is the second highest autonomy in Indonesia after Aceh. And my hope is that with us being there to discuss these things, their view will be a little bit wider than which is sometimes the view of the discussions among young people. So, but that question is relating to this difficult issue. I understand, but our position is very clear. We believe that the future is under the Indonesian umbrella, and we are very happy, as I said, that BRIN is now addressing this issue, this multicultural issue, the diversity of cultures. That is a richness. It is something important, and that is our job to study. And now we have this new institution, and people like Pa Irfan and Yogaswara and Geria and others who understand that cultural diversity is an important thing and needs to be studied. So my hope is our collaboration will continue despite the few problems which are there, and that we will be able to find out interesting things and also make these things available for the Papuan public. You see, the Papuans don't know about the other groups very often. Our job is, see, Pageria has, I think it was him, established the concept of Rumah Peradaban, a very nice term, the house of civilization. So local people should understand that they are part of world civilization. They have their cultural roots. They should be proud of it. And these roots should be made visible in good museums, in good publications, in good programs for the public, let's say in TV, etc. So there is one part of our collaboration which I think is important. Marianne is always stressing this point. She says, it is not enough. We go to Papua and we find things and we publish and that's it. We must give back. We must give back to our Indonesian colleagues. That is what we are trying to do. We publish with them, but also we must feed back that knowledge onto the local level and into the population of Papua in general.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wolf. Let me pick another question from Ibu Triwurjani. The question is like this. What is the difference between Austronesian and Melanesian cultural boundaries? What make the most difference? Please explain. Mr. Wolf, please.
Thank you very much for that question. The Papuan, let's call them Papuan cultures, that is, in a way, is a problem. Who were the people who came 60,000 years ago via Java, Lombok, etc., Timor, or via Sulawesi? Who were they? Can we call them Papuans? What we know is they probably spoke a language somehow similar to the today Papuan languages. Maybe that is not true. Maybe they changed language completely. Like in some areas, people changed their language to Austronesian. The Trobriand Islands in Papua New Guinea, small islands where I have worked, there were Papuan people there, but then came those new guys, the Austronesians, about 3,500 years ago or so, and the culture changed completely into Austronesian culture. In some other places, other islands, one of them is called Rossel Island, all the others speak Austronesian, they speak Papuan. In the west of province Papua Barat, Halmahera, Tidore, Ternate, those people still speak Papuan, even though all the others speak Austronesian. And the people are partly Arab. The Sultan was an Arab person. So we have these different cultures. And the question was, what is the main difference? The main difference is that the Austronesians are people who come from Asia. Their genetic marker is showing that they are different from the Papuans. Many people think the Austronesians come from the island of Taiwan, because today there are 16 tribes which speak 16 Austronesian languages. But people don't originally come from islands. They must come from somewhere else, from the mainland. And so most probably Austronesian people come from the South China coast. Maybe they were pushed and went to Taiwan. From Taiwan, they went to the Philippines, and then they went to Indonesia and to Melanesia and to Polynesia and to Micronesia. Their marker is pottery. They make pots. Papuan people, except people at the Sepik River, don't make pottery. And whether that pottery at the Sepik is an Austronesian input or something local. Some Australian archaeologists believe pottery was also local in Papua. Okay, let's say that is possible, but the Lapita pottery and other pottery is a marker of Austronesian groups. The most important marker is sailing boats and navigation, star navigation. Very, very clever navigation. You know, these people don't have compass and they have no maps, but they can go right to the spot. They go for 1 week or 2 weeks. They don't see anything but the sea and the sky, and they arrive. That is extraordinary. Also, the technology of the boats, outrigger boats, double hull canoe boats, that is Austronesian technology. Austronesian have very often something which is important in anthropological terms. They are matrilineal, yeah, like the Minangkabau. So that is, the children are counted to the clan of the mother. Papuan groups are all patrilineal. Austronesian cultures have a hierarchy. Papuan groups have a little bit of a hierarchy. There are some men who are the speakers. We call them big men. If that big man gets sick, his job is finished. People don't listen to him anymore. If in Austronesia you are a chief, you will always be a chief. And your son, not your son, but the son of your sister, because matrilineal, will be the next chief. So these are the differences in the two different kinds of cultures. Austronesian cultures, in a way, are more complex. Their technology is more advanced in some ways. The Papuan cultures have a kind of egalitarian political system. It's not really egalitarian. There are some people who have more to say than others, and some women also. But these are the differences. Yeah. And in a way, the Papuan system is very interesting. We call that meritocracy. So it's not aristocracy like some Polynesian groups, Austronesian groups. You have a group of people who are aristocracy, who are the leaders, like in Europe, the people of the kings, etc. And in Papua, meritocracy means you are a leader because you are meriting it. People think you are a good guy, you're an intelligent guy, you know what you do, you can talk well, so we follow you. In a way, that is a very democratic system. So these are the differences of the two populations, of the two cultures.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. There is another question. Let me read for you. From Bapak Lutfi Yondri. The question is, he said, I want to know more about the human footprint, especially for the Denisovan and its influence the uncovered by human in Indonesia. From Mr. Wolf's presentation, I saw a very large gap about chronology, about Denisovan chronology in mainlands in Europe and its footprint in Indonesia. My question is, how is Denisovan mixed in the human footprint in Indonesia, and how about the migration process occurred in the past? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get the question? Thank you.
Yeah. This is a very interesting topic. Yeah, for a long time, we did not know that the people in Melanesia are carrying Denisovan blood. And now come modern genetics, which is very important field. And I think that in our future collaboration with Pa Irfan, maybe if we can, we should also include genetics. This modern science has discovered that the Denisovan people have been in the West Pacific, maybe several times. Some people think 3 times, 3 waves. And so the first question is, how did they come to Siberia? Marianne and I were invited by those researchers there in the Altai Mountains, and we looked at this cave, fantastic caves, very deep down. People there are very good archaeologists. They obviously were a line of people who were different from Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. The Russian colleagues call that a new species. They say Homo altaiensis because it comes from the Altai Mountains. And why? Those guys traveled down all the way to the Philippines, to Sulawesi, we don't know. Imagine if you are in Siberia, you have the big Himalaya mountains on your way to the south. That is probably not the way they came. Maybe they came around in the west, Kazakhstan, and then somehow China, Laos, or a little bit further east. These are all things we don't know. Chinese archaeologists now think that the Denisovans were important, but I think we should ask Marianne about this. You know better than I do. What is the relationship between the Chinese early populations in prehistory and the Denisova people?
sorry. Well, I think paleogeneticists will probably be much able to answer those questions. But the thing about Denisova is we are not sure where the home territory of those people is. So we can identify these genes and we find them in archaeological human remains. They can be pinpointed, and we can find traces in modern populations. But how the path of these different populations went, we have common ancestries, we have different waves with different waves of Denisovans. So I think it's a very complicated story, which the puzzle is not complete yet. We need to do more research and have more samples and make a hypothesis about what are the possible ways that what have happened with data on paleogenetics and so forth. So that's a job for archaeologists to find more skeletal remains with good preservation.
Yeah, exactly. Do we know approximately when the Europeans got their 1 or 2% Denisovan genes? Is there an estimate of the molecular clock or something like that? Can we say anything about that?
But I'm not sure. Maybe there are estimates like this, but I'm not sure if this is real. I think it's about the time that we had the Neanderthals also, about that time. So it must be somewhere between 80 and 40,000 BP. But this needs to be checked with the latest literature. I mean, every 2 months we have a new paper coming out, which changes our view of the past. So I'm afraid I'm not up to date.
Yeah, okay, but at least that is a good estimate. So in that way, the admixture of Denisovans to Europeans happened around the same time as the mixture with the early Papuan people, right? About 40,000 or so years ago, or 50 or...
Yes, or 80 somewhere.
Yeah. So it is possible, yet coming back to the question of our friend, that the Denisovans mixed with the people in the Pacific earlier than they did with people in the West. Even though it's probably distance-wise, it's easier to come from Novosibirsk to Paris than from Novosibirsk to Makassar. Yeah. So it is very interesting that these people have moved apparently quite a lot. And some people even think, I think Chris Stringer and others, that Denisovans even went to New Guinea, right, Marianne? That is what they think, huh? Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. So Sulawesi and Papua is having a lot of very interesting answers for our questions, which we don't know yet.
Okay, thank you. Next, Pak Enrico wanna asking a question directly to you. So let me invite Pak Enrico. Silakan, Pak.
Ya. Halo, Prof. Wolf.
Hi, Enrico. Baik sekali. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Fine. Okay. First, good afternoon for all. And first, we appreciate it, Mr. Irfan, also to a friend in the brain that arranged our discussion today. It's so interesting. Sorry, it's late to join because in Jayapura now, since in the morning, there is a big demonstration. Political issue became demonstration in Papua, so we've been late to join with the discussion today. But Prof. Wolf, also Marianne, it's so nice to see you again, and thanks for the presentation. We hope with this presentation, make our friend all Indonesian will see the eyes to Papua because mostly they see in the West, they not see in the East for us. So like you talked that your presentation, Papua like is hidden figures, Papua like a Pandora box, not opened by the, especially from the archaeology things. So mostly it's interesting for come to see the Papuan and research. So first to the Marian, I hope we will find the way to few of our friends from Papua or Indonesian were interested to came to the border to study about the prehistory. And second, for Mr. Wolf, I think they let you tell to us that your research for 3 or 5 years, mostly the information is just in your place or in the West, but not came to the Papuan people, especially our younger. So please, your information, everything you research is very interesting to make our new generation more interesting to think about themselves when they see what you be done to Papua. So please join with us again, and we'll be waiting you to come to Papua again. And you must know that since 2 years this later is more younger of Papua, they more became interested about the prehistory, especially the rock painting or rock art. So we hope you became again, and we be see especially from the ethno-archaeology. So you know the Papuans mostly researching about the anthropology, but this little bit small or the archaeology research. So we hope you became, and now I think because archaeology, a part of BRIN is more changed to big friendship again to join us together to research in Papua. So I have already talked to the leader on the university, and they will wait your confirm to come in here again, and we will join as some new anthropologists. They will come us to study even the history. They will come to us to study about the Papuans, and not just in the in Ipomek, but also in the few places in Papua. Yeah, that's I think I can tell. Thank you.
Kami senang sekali. Terima kasih.
I think there is no more question and there is no more participant wanna ask a question. So maybe it will be the last for our webinar today. What we can learn from this webinar is about Indonesia and France are two countries that those have so many archaeological potential as can be the way to gain a research collaboration as an effort to reveal the global civilization in the future. Thank you so much, Mr. Wolf and Mrs. Marian. Thank you so much for the very previous time that you spent for this webinar. We learned so many things, we learned so many knowledge. We are really inspired by your presentation and also from our discussion session. We really hope that we can meet in another time, in another webinar. Thank you so much once again. Saya juga mewakili dari Pusat Riset Arkeologi Prasejarah dan Sejarah dari Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional mengucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada seluruh peserta yang hadir dan berpartisipasi dalam kegiatan webinar ini. Semoga kegiatan ini bisa memberikan manfaat dan menjadi inspirasi bagi kita semua untuk mengembangkan isu-isu terkini dan membangun kerjasama riset dalam bidang arkeologi, tidak hanya dalam skala nasional tetapi juga internasional, sebagai upaya untuk mengungkap peradaban-peradaban global. Baik, terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Bapak dan Ibu semuanya. Mohon maaf atas segala kekurangannya. Semoga kita bisa bertemu kembali di webinar-webinar selanjutnya. Salam sehat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bye. Ciao.
Terima kasih, Paul.
Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you.
Kami senang sekali, Ibu. Terima kasih atas moderator. You have done your job extremely well, and thank you for all.
Bye, Marian. Bye.
Dah.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Dah.
Pak Irfan, thank you.
Terima kasih. Ya, Pak Enrico, makasih.
See you soon. See you soon.
See you. See you soon. Nicola, Marian, see you soon.
Bye, see you soon.
Makasih, Nurul.
Sama-sama,
Thanks,
Pak.
Nurul.
Terima kasih.
Ya.
Berarti kan per bulan kalau hitungannya tetap dikaji dong.
Depan kok di belakang.
Philip, Marian and Wolf,